Hello, everyone. I am Sophia Ring, SP Saturn the 7th, and you are watching Anime Egotists. Enjoy!
And welcome back to the Anime Egotists, where in Japan, they would definitely try and replace our voice actors. They're not known for doing that too often, but they would definitely do it with us.
Exactly.
Yep. My name's Alex, and I got kicked out of the Masters 8. Not because I'm a bad trainer or anything, they did not take for my attitude. They were not on board for it.
Well, it didn't help that you ran up and suplexed the Leon in the middle of one of his battles.
Oh, yeah, basically.
And I'm Richard.
That is correct. And with anime, like everything in life, all things have to come to an end. It's not always easy, but it's best to move on and have a good ending to really capitalize and send the series off on a good note.
Exactly. So today we're really going to be talking about the worst endings in anime. This could be for a variety of reasons. I mean, mine are all over the place for what made these endings bad, in my opinion.
Yes, and it's not just, for me, it's not just simply some of these are, oh, well, they went differently from when the manga did, because that's not always inherently a bad thing. But if I feel like something's wrong, then it's going to be on this list.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same place. Yeah, it's just, some of these are really, how to put it, a few of mine are American endings, I think, only because of how they ended. Is different from either the Japanese or something like that as well. So we'll get to it when we get to it.
That is correct. And ordinarily, I'd say this is probably where I'd have some witty moment of being like, oh, well, I have ways to fix some of these, but some of these I don't really have a way of fixing. It's one of those, if they had started doing stuff differently from the start, or at least from the middle or something, then maybe. But overall, sometimes a dud is a dud.
Exactly. And this doesn't mean that these shows aren't really fun to watch and really good shows. I like a lot of the shows on my list. Actually, I think I like all of the shows on my list.
Wish I could say that.
It's just the ending, at least where it ends currently or ended at one point, kind of messes it up.
That's right, and we're talking about anime endings. And by endings, I mean like conclusions to the anime. I don't mean like the ending songs. That might just have to be a me video. But do you want to start us off?
Sure, I'll go first. So this is one I watched fairly recently, and that's Fenna, Pirate Princess. It was a Crunchyroll exclusive, created in Japan. The story was actually pretty good overall. I do believe it is one of the higher rated ones of the Crunchyroll exclusive things that they've created. It starts out as just this pirate adventure. They're searching for a lost treasure throughout the entire thing. But like there's kind of hints that there's magic in the world, but there's nothing fully revealed. And like the last 2-3 episodes, they cram a whole bunch of like supernatural stuff right down at the very end. It comes out of nowhere. It's just, it doesn't fit the rest of the story of a pirate adventure. I kind of picked this up like right after the last English dub of One Piece happened, which just because I was like, okay, I want to keep watching something piratey, and it's like, oh, okay, this is complete, and so I watched it. And as I said, at first it was just a pirate adventure, and it kind of it just evolved into something really weird at the end, and as I said, it came out of left field.
Based on all I've heard from Crunchyroll, like, made anime, I haven't heard the best things about them. This is one I admittedly don't know that much about.
Of the ones that I know are, in fact, Crunchyroll made anime, this one is probably one of the better ones, from my understanding.
Okay, I guess I have to co-sign because, like, I don't know it that well.
But yeah, it's just weird what they do at the end is kind of my reasoning for it.
Yeah. So my first one,
Go right ahead.
Daily Lives of High School Boys.
Okay.
This is the first one on my list because I'm conflicted in a sense, because the show does kind of talk about. All right, how do I put this? The show is, I don't want to say a bunch of skits, but it's a bunch of very small episodes crammed into one episode of 12 episodes, basically. So there's not really that much progression of where you can tell when are these boys going to graduate? What's life going to be like afterwards? There are a couple of episodes here and there that address it, but I wouldn't say it's enough to where I'm like, okay, I can believe these boys are about to graduate. All of a sudden, in the last episode, everything's going a little too well. Like, for example, two bickering characters actually become friends towards the end. The vice president of the student council becomes the student president. And Yoshitake decides basically, like, because I guess to explain Yoshitake's story, he saved a bunch of kids from bullies when he was younger. And I guess he's kind of reflecting on that and how proud he is of himself at the end. Hidenori ends up with the literature girl, sort of, kind of, I guess. And Tadakuni gets confessed to. All these three, the main characters, gets confessed to by a girl, and he's kind of surprised by it. And then he wakes up, and he's like, seriously? That wasn't real? On the one hand, it's a funny gag. I admit it's funny, and the episode itself is pretty good, but it just felt like it felt kind of weird, especially in the last scene where they're all running off to school. Well, you know, with the bread in their mouths because they're late, that cliche, and one of them has like yakisoba and like a meat grinder thingy, because this show is weird. Here, and they basically talk about how their adventures aren't over yet, only for their adventures to pretty much be over because the manga ended super abruptly. Like I said, it's not a horrible ending, but it's a little disappointing considering everything the guys had sort of went through, and it did kind of feel rushed in some ways.
Yeah, I do hate it was all a dream thing, especially when it's like, okay, it's supposed to be, if this is going to be the final episode, at least here it's played for comedy. It's not played as like just a dark ending or something that, it was all a dream.
Oh yeah, if the show had been complete, that would have been really really bad. And there are some other slice of life stuff, but that's all. That's probably going to be on my best of list. We didn't say it explicitly. We were going to do a best of list at the beginning of this video, but I just feel like, what else are we going to do?
Exactly. We'll go into more detail on that later once I have a chance to actually do that list.
Yeah.
All right, but yeah, I'll co-sign onto that. It sounds like it could, at least it's played for laughs, so it's not the worst ending, but
Yeah, which is why it's like the first one. It's a tad disappointing, but it's nothing I would be like, avoid this episode or anything. Trust me, we'll get to that later on my list.
all right. So my next one.
Go for it.
So this one's kind of a weird one, and again, it's low on the list, and that's the original Naruto anime.
I thought about putting this on my list, but go for it.
Way too much filler crammed in here, because if you consider where the manga ended and where the Shippuden manga picked up, there's like 150 episodes of filler crammed in right here. Some of it is okay. I've seen most of it now.
Yeah.
But dear God, and I know why they did it. They wanted to give the new manga a chance to get ahead of everything so that they could, they wouldn't have to have too many filler arcs, which they still ended up having way too many filler arcs in the in Shippuden, but it's just way too much. It interrupts the flow of the story where it's supposed to be them, Naruto, leaving to go get strong enough to rescue Sasuke. And there's all this extra fluff thrown in that lasts like a year and a half worth of content.
Oh, that's the thing. That's the thing for me. It's not even necessarily that there's a bunch of filler. That is a problem, but that's not my full problem. I guess my full problem is the last episode doesn't really tie it all together. It's just kind of like, okay, this whole filler thing hasn't been working. Let's go train. But they don't really do that much to emphasize, oh, it's because of Sasuke. Oh, it's because the Akatsuki are still running around. If they had had some way of tying it all back together, then rather than just a bunch of filler with characters that we love, but overall just aren't providing much to the story, which is a whole nother problem. I feel like I would have been like, you know what, this filler, it's fine. But for the most part, it felt very disconnected.
Mhm. Yeah, and as I said, one thing though, I think if it had been like the manga where it's literally okay, the fight after Sasuke, Naruto's in the hospital, he and Jiraiya leave. If it had been there, there's just so much that happens that, and it literally says, okay, this did happen for a couple months
Yeah.
between the battle at the Valley of the End and when Naruto leaves. It's like it doesn't flow quite right.
Yeah, and even the video games acknowledge the manga. It's just like, oh, all these filler characters I'm getting letters from. I'm like, dude, why are you acknowledging this? This doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And heck, in my opinion, it would have been cooler if Naruto and Jiraiya had gone off and we had seen them. That could have been the filler. It didn't have to be super long or anything, but it could have led to some interesting stuff.
If I remember correctly, a couple of the filler arcs, Naruto really wasn't a big part of it, but it could have been like what was it? Hinata, Kiba, and Shino. If they went after the insect, it's just those three.
Yeah.
They're getting the insect for Naruto to go after Sasuke. Like,
especially considering he's the one who messed it up in the first place.
I know, but just imagine like the arcs are literally, it's focused on these side characters. It gives them development, and they're doing whatever they're doing because of Naruto. It shows how much of an impact Naruto's now had on his friends and all that. I think that would have made the filler arcs better if Naruto actually wasn't in them.
Yeah, and they kind of tried doing that in Shippuden, where it's like, oh, now we're going to show what everybody else is doing, but it's like too little, too late. And plus, this series already has too much filler. It's like, I appreciate it's kind of like I appreciate what you're doing, but you took way too long to do it. So why should I care?
Exactly.
All right, but yeah, I can 100% co-sign on to that. So my next one,
go right ahead.
Soul Eater.
Okay, I had a feeling this was going to be on your list.
Oh God, look! If I ever do a commentary about Soul Eater on my own, I might have to call Jay in for this because he is frustrated with it, and I'm not as frustrated as him, but it's a problem. So basically, the son of Death basically shows up, Ashura, and he's super powerful. And you would think, oh man, like I would say at the beginning of the series, all the characters, Soul, Maka, Black Star, etc. I wouldn't say they were all enemies, but you didn't really think to yourselves, oh, these guys are totally friends. If anything, it seemed more like, I like you guys, but we're not really friends. We're kind of just classmates at this point. And to think also, one of the things I actually do like about Soul Eater is it's akin to Shaolin Showdown in the sense of the villains win almost just as much as the heroes do. Like, the villains look good in a lot of these arcs, but the heroes aren't necessarily looking like slouches either. Only for Maka to basically take Ashura out all by herself with one punch, man. What? It just felt really confusing because, and a lot of people say, well, that's not what the manga did. I'm like, I know, but this is the anime. And if you wanted to end it there and not continue Soul Eater, I would have been like, you know what, fine, it's cool. But just to have one singular character do it pretty much all by herself didn't sit well with me. It didn't work for me.
Yeah, the whole thing about this entire series is that it's supposed to be about the partnership between what is the term that they use?
The weapon and the Meister.
Yeah. And to have it pretty much go, okay, you're the chosen one because you're able to do this kind of thing. It's like, yeah, it comes out of nowhere. It's not even set up as a possibility. It just happens. It's like, really, just have them be this, like all of them team up with weapons and meisters and win the day as a group, or at least have Soul Eater and Mako win together.
Yeah, and the thing is, they could have even made this hilarious because I don't know if you remember this when we watched Soul Eater together, but whenever Maka got frustrated with somebody, she would always deliver what she called a Maka chop, like a comedic chop to the head that would knock somebody out. It could have been that, and it wouldn't have been good, but at least would have been like, that's kind of funny. But this was just like, what was the point? What was the point? And like I said, it wouldn't have fixed everything, but part of me would have kind of chuckled. I'm like, that was funny. It was bad, but it was funny. But this was bad. This was just bad.
Yeah, it makes no sense to how they ended it. So yeah, I'll completely 100% co-sign on that.
Yeah, the last time we talked about something like this was with Zatch Bell, and we both kind of waffled on like, oh, maybe this will get a remake and maybe it won't. But then Zatch Bell is apparently coming back, so maybe Soul Eater. It'll happen with Soul Eater. Maybe, probably, possibly.
We've already gotten a sequel to that.
No, we didn't. Let's move. Let's move on. Let's move on.
Okay,
And technically, that was a prequel.
Okay. So this one by itself isn't bad. I actually really enjoy this ending. It's because they've done stuff to the series since.
Oh boy.
Code Geass, Lelouch of the Rebellion.
Oh, never mind. That's not what I thought it was going to be.
It's actually a really good ending. Lelouch, spoiler alert, because this is the big ending. Pretty much he takes over the world and makes himself emperor of everything, but he knows he can't live and the world be a better place, pretty much. So he creates a plan to sacrifice himself to end the rebellion and pretty much end the Britannic Empire. Amazing ending if you just watch the anime. However, they've released movies now where Code Geass, Lelouch of the Resurrection, where he's back alive. It's like, and from my understanding, the Code Geass other properties, because there's other series,
right,
aren't good. So from my understanding, they chose to do this pretty much just because this was the successful series. It's like, don't touch your successful series. Move on to another story if you have to, or something. Just so with the movies, and I haven't watched the movies, but it's like it just feels like it ruins this ending to me.
Yeah, I can understand. Sometimes it's just good for a series. When a series is dead, just leave it dead. And it makes me sad though that sometimes it's not really what we get. But ironically enough, maybe we'll talk about it in the best of video. But who knows? But yeah, I can co-sign. It felt kind of cheap. It cheapened his sacrifice.
Exactly. This said, if you just consider that the original 2 anime series seasons, whatever that you want to call it, are just the story and that's it, there's nothing else, it's an amazing ending because it ends exactly how it needs to. If you count that the movie sequel series, whatever this is, I don't know exactly what it is, I feel this cheapens everything out.
Yeah, and I can co-sign on to that.
All right, so your next one?
Okay, I don't talk about this series a lot on the channel. Sonic X.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm just gonna come out and say this. Sonic X is kind of one of those shows I feel like I enjoy it more than it's good. Like, I don't think it's horrible, but it's I'd say it's more bad, but it's one of those kind of so bad it's good sort of shows. But it gets kind of crazy. So in the beginning, Sonic and his friends all get transported, I guess, to the human world because they're interacting with other humans and stuff like that. And there's this character named Chris. Now, I'm not huge on Chris, much like the rest of the fandom, but that's neither here nor there. So basically, the series starts off kind of normal, all just stopping Eggman and doing all this other sorts of stuff, blah 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 blah. But like towards the end of I want to say the beginning of the last season, maybe the middle of the last season, they go into space and basically fight a bunch of aliens. It was weird. But all of a sudden, once they're done with all of that, they send Chris back home, which because he ends up going to their world somehow. It's weird. But the thing is, it's still one of those kind of no, I don't want to go home because I'll miss all of you. Even though I kind of feel. But here's the thing: Chris himself is not necessarily a great character. So when you give him more time to whine and complain, I can understand why people are like, I'm not really huge on this. Plus, one of the things I really liked towards the end of Sonic X was the aliens were the bad guys, Sonic's team was the good guys. Meanwhile, Eggman was kind of showing signs of I'm going to help the good I'm going to help Sonic and his friends. But it wasn't necessarily just simply, oh well, oh, because I'm turning a new leaf. It's basically they have more to offer right now than you guys do. And so Eggman sends him off, and it's like, "Hey, you were a great ally and an even greater enemy. We'll see you later, Chris." And then he's like, "Well, now that that's over, I'm gonna go back to taking over the world." Like, wow, you learned nothing. Like, let me put it to you this way: the idea of going back to basics can work in some ways. I understand what they were trying to do, but the episode felt kind of long at times, and the whole finale was just kind of weird, especially since we didn't get that much of a follow up on Shadow, who was basically implied to have sacrificed himself at one point. So, yeah, the the most interesting stuff about this episode did not get that much focus.
Yeah, I never actually sat down and watched this series. I do know that it follows very closely to the kind of original 3D Sonic games and Sonic Adventure and Sonic Adventure 2, which is the one I showed you in the
Yeah.
games.
Yeah, some of those games are awesome.
So I know that enough about this kind of story. I don't, and I've watched a couple YouTube videos on what happened in the later season. So I can kind of understand where you're coming from. It sounds like they didn't wrap everything up exactly how they should have.
Yeah, that's basically it. That being said, though, it's one of the most hilariously stupid shows ever. Ever. If we ever do a sequel of the worst anime episodes, I can't wait because there's a really monumentally stupid episode that you would. Let me put it to you this way: it somehow takes Yu-Gi-Oh GX's filler but makes it not filler, but somehow that makes it worse. It's weird. It's so weird.
Oh God.
You will watch that and think, "Damn, I was too hard on Game Show Bob Banter."
Oh God. I don't know what to say to that.
Yeah, it's bizarre. Like I said, not a horrible. Most of these endings aren't horrible. The next two, like not including honorable mentions, are pretty horrible. But these, it was lackluster. It was weird. Sonic X was kind of bizarre.
All right. So my next one is one I've talked about a few times, I think, or at least I've mentioned that I've seen it, and that's Blue Exorcist.
Mm-hmm.
This one, just this is the one of the worst examples of anime original endings. The manga was still ongoing when they started the season, whatever you want to call it, because but of what they've done, they've only released one of this arcs that have come out since this anime ended. So when they did the original ending, they rushed all this character stuff. There's an episode where the class finds out that their teacher and the main character are sons of the devil. And they literally, like 2 episodes later, were in the conclusion and they've forgiven them 100%, and it's so rushed. There's no build up to the finale. It's just they wanted to make sure that they ended the story.
Yeah, Beelzebub was kind of in that same boat. I didn't put it on my list because I feel like I've talked about it a lot, but yeah, I can kind of understand where you're coming from with this. Is Blue Exorcist okay? The manga is still going.
I think so, or it recently ended, but I know that they've only released one like actual arc since then, and it retcons the entire ending. but it doesn't reach a conclusion. It's just the next arc that was told.
Yeah, all I know
Because
is sorry. So all I know is Shonen Jump is basically saying, "Hey, Blue Exorcist, we're putting out more Blue Exorcist chapters." I'm like, okay. Not sure how the anime fans are gonna feel about that, but y'all do you, I guess.
would have been fine. It's like, okay, you should have just ended it as like, here's the how to put it. Here's where we're ending it now. Tune in 2 years for season 2, kind of thing. And
Yeah.
but they chose to end it, and then we've gotten one arc that retcons that ending and is the next arc, and that's it. And that was 3 or 4 years ago now as well. So we haven't even gotten the next arc that I'm pretty sure is already complete. So it's just this was just so frustrating because I hear that the manga is so much better.
Yeah. I guess I can co-sign on to that. I know your pain, dude.
All right. So your next one?
Last one before honorable mentions.
Yeah.
I really just look. We don't talk about. We've never mentioned this show on the channel, but I honestly never want to talk about it again. Kumamiko.
Okay.
What's that? What's that look for?
I don't recognize that name at all. I was trying
Okay,
to think of what it is.
I'm sure if I start talking about it, you might get a glimpse on. Okay, so it's about this girl. It's about this girl and this girl named Machi, and she's basically she lives in this village and she has a lot of social anxiety. Like it's really bad because it's like she has really bad social anxiety and she moves to the city, but she just wants to get over it. It and she's friends with this talking bear. Is this slowly starting to come back to you?
No, not really.
Okay, I'll just keep going. So as the series progresses, she slowly learn she's still bumbling at sometimes, but she's slowly learning to get over her anxiety. She's learning, okay, I can't constantly be in the shell. I want to move on. As you guys can tell, I'm big fans of when people try and step out of their shell and become better people. Well, only for in the end, she's trying to put on a play, and she fails at it. And if she failed and she was like, you know what? And they were like, you know what? Let's bring the series back for another season, and then she finally conquers it. But no, she it basically ends with people booing her and basically throwing rocks at her because she can't get through it. Another example of extra characters and villagers just being horrible people. And in the end, she basically returns back to the country and she's basically in an even worse state than she was before. And the worst part about another bad thing about this is the thing is apparently it's not I don't remember this part that well. Oh, but in some case it's implied that she was able to perform, but like there she that she was able to perform it herself. Oh, but her hallucinations and anxiety took over and made her think that she messed all that up. So basically it's like you got a happy ending, but you didn't get to see it. You see why this is not going great for me?
Yeah, it sounds like yeah. I don't know what this anime is, but it does sound really not good.
Yeah, and you want to you want to know how bad it? Well, we talked before, like, oh, we don't like how what makes them decide. Like, what are we going to change from the manga? What are we going to have the anime end up? Well, apparently, the person who wrote this was not happy. They vocally said, "Hey, I appreciate all the hard work you guys did, but this was incredibly disappointing because the manga is still going, and that chapter, episode, whatever, did not go like that." Apparently, it got so bad that like the one of the writers said, "I'm not putting this on my resume." This is one of the anime writers like, "I'm not doing this." No, it's just an insulting ending that feels like we've wasted our time. I mean, we don't want to see characters get worse just to see them get worse. We want to see them get worse in the hopes of they'll finally be able to overcome their problems. But this was just insulting. Hey, as somebody who has gone through a bit of anxiety themselves, it's just hurt to watch. And there's no reason for it. They just changed it because, we wanted to change it. It's bad, and I honestly don't know if I want this show coming back with these same people writing, because it's just insulting and hurtful.
Yeah, it sounds. Yeah, I do not like it when they change an author's work for the most part, because they work so hard to tell the story they want to tell, and 99% of the time it flows exactly how the story needs to. But then you get people who want to rush the story so that they can make as much money right now as possible, rather than thinking, well, if I wait for the story to conclude, then I can actually make the money I want to make.
Exactly, and maybe pissing off the person who wrote this isn't a good idea, because if I wrote this and they decide, I'd be like, all right, no, give me this back. I'm gonna put this in the hands of somebody who actually knows what they're doing with storytelling. But that's really all I want to say, because the ending of that show just really made me sick.
I I do have an honorable mention that's kind of the opposite, but I'll go into detail of why um, when I get to that one.
Yeah, but you co-sign.
Yeah, based on what you've told me, yeah, I completely co-sign on that.
All right, honorable mentions time.
All right, so I'll start with that one. It's Stigma of the Wind.
Okay.
I watched this one years ago, but pretty much the synopsis is this family of magicians lives in modern day Japan, and their family is extraordinarily famous for being the greatest fire wizards in the entire world. And the eldest born of this generation is born actually with a different affinity. He's born with wind affinity.
I remember you bringing up the show.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever done it on our podcast, but I think I talked about it back when we were roommates. His cousin is like the best one in generations with fire magic. And the whole story is, at least at first, is about the main character trying to prove that he's innocent because their family's been attacked a few times and he's the prime suspect because he doesn't have fire magic, and they think he's just attacking them for what they've done to him. It was a really good show. It ends kind of abruptly because, unfortunately, the author, Takahiro Yamato, passed away before he could finish the series. This is kind of the one time that if a family member or someone close to him knew how he wanted to end the series, I would have been fine with them giving it to someone to actually wrap up the series and tell the whole story, because it literally ends, if I remember correctly, on a cliffhanger of something's happening, it's coming up, and then it just ends.
Yeah.
But I also understand honoring them if no one knows how it was going to end, not forcing some ending out at the end.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way, because on the one, as much as I would have loved a killer, like a really good ending that stays true to the source material, I can kind of understand why their hands were tied at that moment. So it being an honorable mention does kind of work.
Yeah, and it's not, as I said, it's not his fault that he for passing away or something. It's just in my opinion, it's a really good story. If you ever get a chance, I would recommend it. But yeah, that's why it's an honorable mention. I wish it had been able to end, but this is
Yeah, I can give you that. Okay, so my next one,
go right ahead.
Watamote.
Okay.
All right, so I don't really know how to explain this ending, because I want to say this is starting the second term for Tomoko, and instead of sitting in the back corner like every protagonist does, she ends up moving into like the middle of the room, and she's surrounded by a bunch of friends. Not her friends, but just friends who know each other. They try and talk to her a little bit, but it doesn't really go well. Now, on the one hand, she's developed. She's able to form more coherent sentences. She's a bit more confident. She kind of realizes the steps she needs to take. On the other hand, though, there are kind of moments where it doesn't really work. Like, there's a bug flying around the classroom and she, like, squashes it. And normally that would be a cause for like celebration in other anime, but everybody thinks she's super weird for it. It's kind of strange. And just there are other moments where like apparently she's trying to say hi to somebody she looks up to, but the person's skirt, the student council president who kind of took her under her wing, a really nice character, like her skirt ends up flying up because of the wind or something, and Tomoko just bolts home because why? It, it's conflicting because it makes the series, it follows the series formula, but it does get sweeted sometimes because the friends walk up and she's like, "Who was that?" And I'm like, "Oh, that's Tomoko. She's somebody I've talked to. She's really nice." Hey, so in the one hand, it's showing that people care about her and she's slowly getting out of her shell, but it seems like they're backtracking on. I don't really know how to explain it rather than just say watch the last episode. But I understand why people don't want to watch this show because it's so goddamn cringe. It's a confusing, kind of messy episode, but I will give it credit for one major thing. Tomoko basically comes out and says, "I don't need to grow that fast. I'm happy with growing and becoming better, but I don't need to rush it necessarily," which I think is a really important lesson for people to learn. That being said, though, it's just such a weird, messy finale that I don't know, I'm conflicted, and I don't feel that much shame for feeling conflicted about it.
Okay, yeah, I can understand that. It sounds like it's a slightly better ending than the one you talked about right before honorable mentions, with
Hmm.
where in that one it's not a happy ending. It just ends. This one, you see the growth and it's there and it's obvious that it's there. It's just, but it's not 100% there. They haven't broken through their shell 100%, but they're kind of peeking out at this point.
Yeah, basically that. It's a weird one, but it's an honorable mention. I'm okay with that.
Okay, I can understand that. I'll co-sign onto that one. It
Yeah.
sounds
We need to do a watch along with you watching that show just to see can you get through it.
maybe we'll figure something out eventually, probably.
Yeah, but that's it for Watamote.
All right. So this one is an honorable mention because it is coming back and it's supposed to actually reach the actual ending of the series now.
Can I guess this one?
Go right ahead.
Is it Bleach?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, go ahead.
So my real problem is we've Ichigo has just gotten his powers back. He's defeated the villain of the Fullbring arc, and it's and he's doing this thing. He's taking the body back to bury it because he feels he needs to honor him that way. And it just, how to put it, the way they say this is the end, that we're done making the anime, like they said this is the end, they're not going to make the rest of the series. It really hurt the fan base, in my opinion. They should have come out and said, we're going on hiatus until the manga ends, which it took it a few years to get there, but in my opinion, that's what they should have said. But the way they worded it, at least here, at least in the articles I always read, was, we're done, we're not going to make the ending of the series, which Bleach had kind of fallen off on the fan base at the time, but still, it hurt. But because this one's coming back and they are ending it later this year, I'm fine with it now.
You know how they should open the first episode of the new series?
How?
It should just have the same writers who put that message. They should come out and they should be like, "So, what do you guys want to talk about?" And then it just jumps into the new theme song.
Yeah. So as I said, it hurt when this happened, and then because again, this was considered one of the big three at the time. So
Yeah, I can definitely understand that. It feels weird that they would end it kind of just saying, "Hey, we're done. So, thanks for your money. Thanks for the money, suckers." But yeah, I can understand that. Hopefully when it comes back it's really good.
That's what I'm hoping. It's supposed to have some really good animation, supposedly coming in, like movie quality animation for the last arc.
Yeah, and hopefully it ends well for people because I've heard some bad stuff about the way Bleach ends. Not because of the fights or anything, but just because of something in particular.
Yeah, I'm waiting to see it. I managed to avoid the very end of the manga. I know what's coming, but I don't know all of the details.
Yeah. Okay. So my next one.
Go right ahead.
Okay. So I kind of had to combine this because it's the same anime, but it's okay. I initially wanted to say the Yu-Gi-Oh GX dub, but I
Okay.
also kind of mean the sub. But I'll start with the dub first. So, for those of you who didn't know, Yu-Gi-Oh! GX ended prematurely in the dub because they wanted to move over to do 5Ds. But rather than doing something along the lines of, oh, I don't know, doing a movie to follow up because you could have wrapped things up a little better or something like that, they ended at season 3 and didn't dub season 4. But that's not completely true either because they ended on the penultimate episode of season 3. So basically, they didn't even finish season 3. They basically let everybody think, the whole audience think that Jaden had died sacrificing himself just so they could go and dub season Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds, which they also did not finish. It just felt really kind of crummy, especially considering season 3 of GX is probably, from what I can tell, is a lot of people's least favorite because it feels so unlike GX. It wasn't a good way of doing it. And some of you might think, well, just watch the sub. Season 4 is not my favorite either because now this is an honorable mention because I can't completely blame them because apparently in Japan in the Japanese version, Jaden's voice actor wanted to move on to other projects and I'm not really sure why he couldn't have just finished the season, but they cut about the season pretty much in half, which did not help. And a lot of people were saying, oh, well, season 4 wrapped up a lot of character stuff like Chaz, Alexis, etc., etc. I'm like, yeah, but where was this in the beginning? It kind of felt like they forgot, like, oh, we have other characters. Okay, let's give them other stuff to do. Like, we talked about before about how the tag duel between Jaden, Alexis, Blair, and Hasselberry, and how we talked about how Alexis's crush on Jaden or whatever, it never really felt that important or that emphasized. If they had built all of this stuff up in the middle rather than just focusing on Jaden and a bunch of filler, it could have been cool. But overall, neither the sub didn't work out for me that much, and the dub was just like the dub was laughable for a variety of reasons.
Yeah, I've only seen it again through the Society of Light arc, which I guess makes me lucky because I've seen what's considered the best parts of it, I guess.
Yeah, it's amazing. No matter how much crap I talk about season 2 and the Society of Light, I still say it's the best season of GX.
Yeah, they I know how both the English dub and the sub ended. And yeah, with the sub ending on the like an incomplete duel between Yugi and Jaden, it's just kind of disappointing.
Yeah, and like I said, it's an honorable mention because I don't necessarily blame them because Jaden's actor wanted to leave. I understand why things were a bit rushed, but at the same time, I'm like, why didn't you do this stuff in the beginning and in the middle? That way, the ending would have felt that much more satisfactory. Or for the dub, just end it on season 3 when we know everybody's alive. Not and don't cliffhanger ending. It just wasn't good.
Exactly. Yeah, that's all I can say. It's
Damn you, GX! Damn you! And I love it so much too.
yeah, they really should have edited because I think every other series, Zexel and Arc 5 and whatever the other one is, V Reigns or whatever,
Yeah,
all have actually ended. Like they completely dubbed them, I think.
yeah, but based on what I've heard about Arc 5, that wasn't necessarily a good thing. I've heard like I said, I haven't seen it, so it wasn't on this list, but I've heard Arc 5's ending was just an absolute nightmare.
I've heard that Zexel ends well.
Yeah, but you're not even on 5Ds yet, so I don't know. But like I said, let's move on. Let's move on from GX.
So this is one that we've talked about a few times, and I just wanted to make it a quick honorable mention. And as I said, this is where I feel that the entire series could have changed and been done rather than where they did. Pokemon X, Y, and Z. They should have. This is where Ash should have won. End of story.
No, I have to disagree because I feel like there are other Pokemon series that didn't end on the best. I feel like the original series didn't end on the best note because the transition to Johto was just complete and utter kind of garbage. But I understand what you mean. You've talked about it so many times, but I disagree. I like the ending to XYZ. Hey, everything else after that, well, we can talk about that later. And I really hope that Journeys is not on this. I really hope that Journeys has a good ending, but I don't have my hopes up for that.
The only reason this one's on there is because I feel of the places that it could have ended recently, this is the best spot that it could have ended. But
yeah, controversial opinion. Ash winning the league would not have made a damn difference. But
exactly,
we can talk about that another time. But anyways, so like I said, this is my kind of honorable mention.
Okay.
Okay. As it's known, Digimon 02.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm not going to act like I know that much about Digimon. I'm not going to act like I care that much about it. I'm not. But one of the things that I kind of want to get your opinion on, maybe for a future video, is the series ends with everybody growing up, which I've said before. Sometimes it's not worth it. Just end it with everybody the way they are or the way they've developed. But a lot of people were upset that a lot of the characters got basically shipped off onto a bunch of people we had never seen before. You know the ending I'm talking about, correct?
Exactly. I think the like people were pushing for Sora and Tai, I think was the main push.
I'm not gonna act like I know the characters.
And then it's revealed at the end that they're just not together, but they have kids separately with other people. It's like, but that's the thing. This is the whole shipping with like 10-year-olds. We've talked about this before. Does it need to happen?
It's not even that completely. For like you and Jay are adamant about that. My philosophy, I'll get onto this maybe in another video. I guess my philosophy is sometimes if it's that convoluted that you have to get all these characters together, maybe just don't do it.
Yeah, it's a mess, and they've kind of retconned the ending a little bit throughout the like movies that they've released since then with like I think the Pokemon or Digimon movie Try. Maybe. I think retcon some stuff, but
yeah, but I guess I don't know. I guess the hilarious thing for me is I can't even get on this ending too much because nobody talks about, oh well, the last battle or the last fight between these people. It's just primarily the shipping. So I'm not completely sure when people say this is the worst ending possible, that I'm not sure I can take them seriously on that. If there are other reasons to why it's bad, let us know. But just the ship, I don't know. Oh, if this is what makes people upset, then maybe Pokemon shouldn't follow the same route. But everybody's arguing. It's like, no, it needs to happen for this, this, and this. I'm like, it sounds more like it's not that you want a character to get married, you want them to be with a specific person. And trust me, and if it doesn't happen, you're gonna get pissy about it. So what's the point? Oh boy, I do have somebody we could talk with this about, but it's I don't know. I don't feel like it's worth it sometimes. It's just not.
Yeah, I think another issue people have is that some of the characters, like, because they're revealed like what they grew up to do, and like one of the characters is big into music, and instead of being a musician in their life, they're an astronaut randomly. So people have issues with like the careers of some of the characters. It's like,
okay, and that would have been great.
Up.
I mean, yeah, but besides you, nobody has told me that. It's just basically the shipping, and yeah. So, like I said, it's an honorable mention because I kind of just wanted to get it out there, and our subscribers are probably burning our channel to the ground as we tell them we don't care about shipping. But if you know that and you're still subscribed, props to you.
Yeah. All right. So my final one.
Yeah.
So this one is the one I was talking about. That's specifically an English dub that. Of where it ended. Mega Man NT Warrior.
Mm-hmm.
This one literally ends, I think it's even where they end, they're teasing I think it's the Beast chapter is the next one that's supposed to happen, but it's the end of Access, which is the one where they come into the real world with their net navies and all that, and they tease the start of it by rescuing Lan's dad from a flooded mall, if I remember correctly, and it's just there are some really interesting stories based from the games and all that I know we're supposed to come next, such as the Dark Mega Man arc, where Mega Man's corrupted for a little while, or at least there's a Shadow Mega Man or something. I don't know exactly all the details with this part of the story, but it's just there were supposed to be some really good story arcs, and we never got this in the story at this, or in anime form. We only got it in the games in the US.
Do you remember the reason as to why they stopped doing this, or I don't know.
I think it was a combination of the toys weren't selling the best, and I think they were getting ready to release the Mega Man Star Force anime instead.
Oh, I know you're not allowed to blame Star Force. Star Force got off so much worse.
No, but I think that's the combination. They didn't want two Mega Man properties competing for the same audience, despite the fact that I think it would have been fine if they had continued NT Warrior and also done Star Force at the same time. They might have even helped each other, but
yeah. Plus, we could have gotten a battle between the two.
Exactly, or just something. But again, I think there's 3 technical sequel series to NT Warrior there's like Beast, something else, and then there's one more that all tell the story for the rest of the games pretty much, and it's so disappointing when they don't finish it.
Yeah, I can co-sign on to that. Sadly, I feel like they definitely got off better than Star Force, because how many episodes did NT Warriors get?
I don't know, probably somewhere between 100 and 150, I would say.
Star Force got 12.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mega Man's really gotten screwed in the anime department, and right now in the game department, because where are the Mega Man games?
Oh, they're just re-releasing the originals.
I'll take it at this point. God, yeah.
Here's your digital release of Mega Man. Insert this.
I'll take it, especially just not the one where where Mega Man walks into the mall and he starts looking at dirty magazines. That's literally a part in one of the video games.
Okay.
So, are we ready to close out? Are we good to go?
No, I think you've got one more that you're supposed to talk about.
I hate you. I honestly hate you. Ore no Imoto.
Okay.
Oh boy. I told myself I wasn't going to rant today. That might be a lie. Okay, so we've talked about this before. Or Kirino and Kyosuke. Kyosuke is a bland main character who nobody cares about. Oh, and he's stuck with an abusive otaku sister named Kirino. Oh, now with all the abuse and mean-spiritedness between the two, it only makes sense that they'd end up together. Oh wait, it doesn't. It actually doesn't. Especially when I don't talk about this girl that often. There's this girl named Kuroneko or Ruri, and she and Kyosuke date for a good amount of episodes. I would actually argue that there are good episodes in that part, and that I'd honestly say they're a pretty charming couple. Only for them to break up, and then at the end of the series, I talked about before, Monami saying, "Oh, little brothers shouldn't date little sisters," which she's 1000% right on. And basically, it's just Ruri walks up to Kyosuke in the OVA, and she's like, "Oh, I want us to be together again." And Kyosuke's like, "No, I love somebody else, and it's my sister." Now, there might be people out there who are like, "Oh, what, Alex? You're okay with 2 men being together or 2 women being together, but you're not okay with a brother and sister being together?" And my answer to that is, yeah, Kind of. I'm okay with being canceled or throwing hate comments over that. I don't care at this point. But here's the absolute utter insanity of it. The brother and the sister decide to get married. And then it turns out it wasn't real because what? You took Monami, a character who was okay, not amazing. You tried to turn her into the villain of the show, and if anything, I was kind of on her side the whole time. You ruined Kyosuke's relationship with just about every other girl just to put him with one of the worst characters I've ever seen in an anime, but then you don't commit to it. Who wins in this ending?
Yeah, that's yeah. I don't get this whole premise of incest being the biggest thing in like a whole bunch of these animes. It happens a lot more than it should.
Yeah, but once again, I say it. You didn't even commit to it. You're basically just like, okay, nobody wins. Which you might think to yourself, isn't that what you want? Don't you want more anime to end with characters not necessarily ending up together? Maybe, but not when you burn bridges with just about every other character. It got so bad that even the person who wrote the manga said, "Oh, I messed up." Which, yes, you did. You started writing this in the first place. What's wrong with you? But apparently he made an alternate manga story, whatever, where Kyosuke and Ruri actually end up together. And I'm like, why couldn't it have been about that? I'm not they're a charming couple, and once again, it's just a little thing. They're not related.
Yeah. I mean, this would have been fine for a dream sequence where he wakes up and it's like he's sweating from a nightmare, if that had been the ending. That would have been like, okay, at least that makes sense.
I would have started laughing like a maniac. It would have gotten bad. But Richard, I say this as somebody who, if you fell down a flight of stairs, I would laugh. If you got slapped by somebody, I would laugh. If you were miserable in any way, shape, or form, I'd be okay with it. Do not watch this show. I will never ask you to watch this show. Ever.
I think I'll listen to you this time.
Yeah, don't do like school days where you're like, oh, I'll give the first episode a chance. I'm like, you're on your own, dude. You didn't even finish it. Like, you didn't get to the worst part of it.
Exactly.
But I say this because I don't ever want to do a Ore no Emoto or Oreimo commentary on the channel. We're not great, but we have some class. Unlike that show, but no, don't. We're not covering it. I'm not covering it. Nobody should cover it. Don't watch it.
I'm sure people cover this anime all the time.
Yeah. And
so go watch one of their videos if you want to know more about it.
Yeah. But speaking of endings, should we get to the end of this episode?
Yes. So what endings did you think from our lists that were really bad, and what are our reasonings for the endings that we thought were bad?
Yeah, and don't worry, we will be doing a list of the best ways to end an anime. The best endings to an anime, and I'm gonna have some controversial picks, but that's okay, because, well, that's what you guys come here for. I'm slowly getting back into doing commentaries, so maybe those will start coming out faster, but I don't know at this point. I think life is kind of strange right now. Oh, but so's this channel, but strange in a good sort of way. So be sure to smash that like button, stack the subscribe button, and pin that notification bell, and maybe even leave us a review in the podcasting realm. And we will see you guys next time. This has been Alex.
And Richard.
And you've been listening to the Anime Egotists. Good night, and peace easy.